cards, I don't know about now, I think now too, that one of the most important reactions from the audience is you have to get a 55% recommend. I have the cards at home, I know this. Yeah, I still have the cards at home, locked away. But you had to have a 55% recommend, which means 55% of the people in the audience must be able to recommend the movie. Under that, it's not good. We got 13%.
Wow.
It was a disaster.
That's better than I thought.
It was a disaster because we killed them, not the other stuff. They're with Alan and Howard's numbers. They're applauding after every number. And then we did it in L.A. again. I said, "Come on, David, let me try it in L.A." Same thing happened. So there's nothing. You make it for an audience.
What did the studio, do you remember specifically sitting in that meeting on Monday morning with the studio people, specifically what they said? Yeah, well, here are the cards.
No, I tell you what happened.
In the lobby?
Were you in the plane?
No.
Okay, I was on the Warner's jet. We came here with Terry and Bob, who were head of Warner's, and David Geffen, and I forgot another exec, and so we're all excited. And then we saw the screening, and then we saw the cards. I thought they were going to put me back in a Greyhound or something, And went back on the plane, and I remember David looking at the cards saying, "It's a disaster. It's a disaster." and it's so funny because this has happened so much in movies. We all decided, made a pact, that when somebody asks us how it was, it just needs a little work.
And you know what? But I was so blown away by the transformation of how, with just editing and reshaping things, it was fixed. It was
he did a great job.
But I mean,
beautiful job.
yeah. Right, but I mean, from the screening to the happy ending.
Oh, the happy ending. Oh, yeah. It was pretty seamless.
It was pretty
seamless. I think it was hokey also. I really didn't like the intent.
Too vanilla for you?
Well, yeah, and the intent from Warner's, and Howard and I completely understood it, is that what they needed for Seymour to be a hero. And so Seymour, kills the plant as the hero. I thought it was bogus, but I had no other choice, and Howard didn't either. And again, you're making it for millions of people, not for me and Howard, and not for you.
I have a question regarding. I was talking to Ellen this morning, and I brought up the point that there are so many movies that become musicals today, and I guess throughout history, where the people on stage don't get to recreate it. Don't get to recreate their roles.
Right, of course.
And Ellen as Audrey is such it's an iconic performance.
Yeah.
What does it mean that she gets to, for you and for the film, that she gets to recreate the role that she created at the WPA? For posterity.
I feel happy for Ellen that she got to do it, and she was wonderful.
When Ellen came in for the Off-Broadway, did you audition her with Howard, or did you find her?
She auditioned among other people.
Yeah? And did you and Howard know right away, or did you have to... No?
No, in fact... No, actually, initially we had offered the role to a woman named Faith Prince.
Wow.
Who was a very young Faith Prince, and she had an industrial in Florida. We were at the WPA Theater doing this little monster movie, and she had this industrial she couldn't get out of. And so Ellen came and did it. It was also it was very close between Nathan Lane and Lee.
Wow.
Howard wanted Nathan, and Lee's voice was just so wonderful.
It could have been Nathan Lane and Faith Prince.
Wow.
But no, it couldn't have been because this was such fate. God knows, and performance. And yes, Ellen's performance transformed the show.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same show after Ellen, inhabited it.
Now I got a compliment to you, as I was asked this before, but we did about a year's prep on this, almost a year. It was a huge 007 number, and then we had 5 months of shooting before we went back into reshoot. And so it was like, an year and almost a year and a half of like 16, 18-hour days. And I was exhausted every morning. And I'd get in the car, and the only thing that would buoy me is the music.
Oh, thanks.
Seriously. I said, oh my God, this is...
Do you remember all the writing? How many songs Howard and I wrote to try to get into the movie?
I know.
We wrote, if I remember, Bad.
That's right.
Bad Like Me. These are 2 songs for Audrey too. Your Day Begins Tonight, Crystal Ronette and Chiffon, Thunder Crash.
Wow, I think that.
I have all these.
Wow.
And of course, Mean Green Mother.
Yeah.
So at least 6 songs. We kept trying to, you know.
Mean Green Mother, just story-wise, was the best way to go, I felt.
And there was a request because we wanted a single. Could we change the title from Suddenly Seymour to Suddenly Someone?
Right.
Suddenly Someone.
Such a great song.
Standing beside me.
Such a great song.
We haven't learned how to do our singles yet.
That could have been like the wedding song of the season.
It could have been. But I mean, Howard was not going to.
But the song is so great. So great.
Howard was the guy who wouldn't move it from off-Broadway to Broadway. And based on our revival that a few years ago, I think he was right.
Is that right? I didn't see it. Well, it's such an intimate.
It was just, it was a bigger little shop. It was a shiny little shop instead of being in that funky theater.
Yeah, the Orpheum Theater was so funky. Because what I felt responsibility is to not make it an Auntie Mame or My Fair Lady, but to squeeze it and keep it as vibrant an off-Broadway show as I could, on screen. And the Orpheum Theater really helped it, didn't it?
Yeah.
It made a sense of grit to it.
Oh yeah, it was it was tremendous. Absolutely. I mean, if we could have put it there was. I remember we were talking about the used to be called it's the Joyce Theater now.
In Chelsea, the Joyce.
Yeah.
But it was what before was called the Joyce. It had another name to it, and I can't remember the name. And it was rat infested and falling apart because it had. And you had to walk through it like a rusty gate to get in to look at the theater. We thought, can't we just leave it just the way it is and put the show, make sure have the audience have to walk through a rusty gate through a moldy, disgusting lobby to go into the theater? No, you can't do that. Just the actors' equity would never.
Is it difficult trying to get it back? I see there's a huge demand to get this back, even off Broadway or anything.
Is there?
Yeah, big. They're doing a small revival in Long Island.
Oh, people do it in stock and amateur all the time.
And they're
high schools.
There's so
Yeah.
many people that are clamoring to see the show come back. Is that hard to coordinate to bring it back? Or
well, no, we're not going to bring it back to Broadway or off Broadway. I don't think. No, I mean, for theater writers, the afterlife of the shows is frankly the best part. The stock and amateur. I mean, like Beauty and the Beast and Little Shop and Christmas Carol, various things I've done are just out there, and they just generate. It's fantastic. They no longer belong to you. They belong to them, and it's great.
I was in a production of Little Shop when I was in high school.
Audrey?
So,
you go.
No, I was like one of the
Urchins.
Yeah. Yep.
I love the way at certain high schools they'll have like 32 urchins because
Oh yeah, that was one of mine.
A real Greek chorus.
it's true, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure everybody gets to be in it.
That's
So,
funny.
Yep.
well,
I've seen that.
yeah.
It's funny, if you came back to New York now, like the status of off-Broadway theater in New York now would probably be too glitzy for what you
Off-Broadway
you have to off
That,
to get that.
That off Broadway doesn't exist anymore.
Not anymore, I guess. No, but the off, there's like the Flea Theater
Yes.
and smaller, I would imagine, would be the kind of place that would keep the integrity of what you were just
Yeah.
talking about.
That'd probably be the problem, is that you couldn't keep the integrity of the vision of keeping it small
tiny,
and very homey. It wouldn't really work.
No, I don't. Well, it's. My theory about these kinds of things is, we're like architects. We design the house, and then people are going to live in it, and people are going to sell it, and someone else will move in, and maybe they'll renovate a little. But
That's good enough.
our work was, we created a structure that works, and my preference is to, like your children, they could grow up and go off. Let somebody.
What would you do next? Do you think Enchanted would ever be your next musical on Broadway?
These are old, within the Disney world, they'll make those decisions. Enchanted is a very requested title.
Really?
It's brilliant.
But Newsies was one of those things that just shocked the hell out of us.
Really?
Well, do you remember what a
It was a
unmitigated flop that was?
disaster.
Disaster, total disaster.
How was it
flop.
different?
20 years. and Harvey Firestein came in and wrote the book. We added a lot of score. Come and see it. Come and
I
see
will.
it.
I will.
It's a great.
It's great.
It's a great show.
The movie had a lot. I think the songs were really good. Kenny Ortega was a new director, and he came out of dance videos, and MTV videos. But on Newsies, he wasn't given. I think if you notice, it was like two camera angles, either a close up of some Newsies dancing, or you're back here, and that's about it. Maybe a side view, but he didn't have much to work with. And there was a lot about the movie that just was wrong. But the interesting thing is, that material over time, on its own, took on a life of its own without us really doing anything. It was the way this all came about is they just wanted to do a stock and amateur version of it to get it out there. So we, kind of went in there, and they even said to me, "You don't really have to get involved in it. We'll bring in other people to write some other songs, and we'll fix the book." And I said, "It's my baby. I want to do that." And so it. We got it out there to the Hapeville Playhouse, and it came in. And these things just have a life of their own. So, in regards to Little Shop coming back, or this, I really try to distance myself from, number one, from the revivals, and I also try to keep myself not emotionally attached to, the reunions.
Does it help you keep fresh?
I'm
sorry, didn't mean to ask a question.
You mean fresh in terms of the work?
No. Keep fresh in terms of creativity by.
I just want to move on.
I just
want to move on to the next thing. I don't want to get stuck. First of all, I don't want to get stuck having sort of emotional attachments to a production, either to the actors or anybody, because in this business, people leave and then new people come in, and then the show closes and another show opens and people get really destroyed by getting emotionally attached to their own work. So it's just kind of, and this way with as it is with Little Shop and anything that involves Howard,